Eliot, Clough, and Sean Bock here for Hawkeye Insider on Swarmcast this Sunday afternoon, reviewing the Iowa 18-16 loss to Oregon at home over the weekend. Well, Sean, I said it beforehand. You know, we kind of usually start these things talking about like Mark Gronowski or the offense and how they operated, but I really think we got to talk about just the missed opportunities and the mistakes by the entire Iowa team on all three phases yesterday. After a dominating all three phases win over Minnesota, you flip the script and make these mistakes. I mean, I said it on the recap that Dave and I did last night. This is where it all starts for me, is the 3rd and 2 pass call by Tim Lester to the sideline that falls incomplete, followed by the snap out of the back of the end zone. That was probably the worst sequence of the season, in my opinion. Not a great call when you know Mark Gronowski doesn't start well in games throwing the ball. I mean, that's been established at this point. Like you can't say anything otherwise. I mean, and he didn't even make any great throws on that drive where they scored on the first drive against Minnesota. So you can't counter that, in my opinion, with a sample. So he misses the throw. It's a tough throw to the sideline to Jacob Gill at his feet. So Jacob can't even make a play on the ball. And prior to that, on that drive, you're averaging like 6 yards a carry. It's 3rd and 2. You're a running team. The running designs have been good. You go to the air, and then the ball goes probably closer to us in the press box than to Reese Dakin's hands on that snap by Bryant Worrell. Just an awful sequence. Like, I don't know what you saw, what you thought there, but like, again, like I said, might have been the worst back-to-back two plays of Iowa's season to this point.
Yeah, and I mean, what's kind of been Iowa's kryptonite this year? Like, they've just been in their losses, they've just bitten themselves in the butt. Like, they have just gotten, have had some of the worst kind of situations that you can have and worst kind of mental mistakes that you really shoot yourself in the foot with those types of mistakes that you make. And I know a lot of people make fun of Kirk for saying like complimentary football and whatnot because it's like, oh, it's the classic Kirk cliche. Like, it's so true in this situation because there were times where you're kind of just like, that's a mistake that if they don't make this, it's a totally different game or it's a totally different scenario. I mean, you probably couldn't have predicted that Bryant Worrell was going to have that snap to Reese Dakin right after Gronowski had that throw, but it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, you lose some momentum, then you kind of, I mean, the weather definitely didn't help. I don't know how much it helped Gronowski's throw either. Obviously didn't help Worrell's snap. I imagine that really had something to do with it. And it's just, one of those, tough situations where it's kind of just like momentum just goes opposite of your direction. Things just kind of, go from bad to worse. And Iowa was able to recover, stay in the game. They were able to stay in the game throughout the entire game. I mean, Oregon kind of looked like when Oregon made it 9-0, you're kind of like, oh boy, like here we go. And, they get the ball at half. And it's one of those situations where you're like, all right, the momentum is going in Oregon's direction. If they don't score here, like we're going to be in trouble or we're going to be in a tough spot to come back. And I mean, Iowa was able to do that, but then, costly mistakes in the second half that ended up, being having a pretty big result on the game too. So yeah, I mean, it's been the theme in the losses this year for Iowa. I mean, you look at the Iowa State game, and some of that too is just like dumb luck. Like that's just kind of college football, like that Gabe Burkle catch, the way that he was able to go up and get it. You talk about the Mark Gronowski interception that led to the Iowa State touchdown that they had earlier in the game. Indiana, Mark Gronowski going down, Drew Stevens missing field goals, like just stuff like that. Like people have said it too. I texted and I started something on our board yesterday saying that it's just one of those seasons where you are the margin for error is just so the margin of error is so small, and the gap between having 3 losses right now and having 0 losses is like the tiniest like possible. Like I think 5 or 6 plays, maybe a Mark Gronowski injury. Like Iowa plays such a brand of football that all the games are going to be close. But we talk about like you don't want to bring up moral victories and whatnot, but they're the last people that are going to do this. But man, like you talk about this winless streak, against ranked opponents. I think they're 0-12.
Yep.
I think it's at 0-12, or it's at 12 straight again, 12 straight losses to ranked opponents.
Yep.
And I mean, most of those ones were pretty big blowouts too. Like, you're right there. You are right there, and you're just unable to get over the top and unable to get to that, next level. And that's what hurts. Like that's what hurts for a lot with this team, because you see the potential. Like, we didn't think the defense was going to be this good, and obviously it was put in a tough spot yesterday. But if you would have told me that Iowa's defensive line would have played at the game that they did and Iowa would only lose by 2 points, I think that's a pretty, remarkable thing. Then again, Dante Moore didn't have the game that he expected to have, but Noah Whittington and, the rest of the Oregon running backs were incredibly productive. And, that falls on Iowa's tackling ability and the defense, and, how they were unable to get some of those guys down. And that's one of the keys that I mentioned before the game too, is you're going to have these types of situations against Oregon, especially where they have 3 backs that complement each other pretty well. And they're all 3 of them are really tough to take down. And what else has been an issue for Iowa in their losses this year? Tackling's been an issue at times. And they were able to do it well against Indiana for the most part, but the Iowa State game was a big issue, and that ended up being the case against Oregon. And like we said, I mean, there were opportunities on the offensive end that you'd want back for sure, a couple of drives that you would want back, but man, it's just that's just one of those things where, I mean, not to use another Kirk cliche, but that's football, I guess. Like that is football. How just the gap between 3 losses and 0 losses is just so freaking small. Mm-hmm. It's wild. It's really wild. Like when Dante Moore completed that pass down the sideline for 24 yards in the fourth quarter on that last drive that set up the field goal, you're just like, of course. Mm-hmm. Of course this is happening right now.
He had 2 good throws the whole day. That was one of them. The other one was on the I think it was like a crosser, like a long crosser, like a post route to Bryant when Bryant got hurt. In the first quarter, and then he threw a pick to Deshaun Lee. But yeah, other than that, wasn't particularly good. I mean, this was set up for Iowa to win this game more or less because of all the injuries to Oregon, it being in Kinnick, and the amount of times that they shot themselves in the foot. I will go as far as to say that Oregon, I don't want to take away from, like, their run game was really good. Their running backs are really good. Their offensive line is good. But I think Iowa probably, in my rewatch, I'm thinking Iowa did more to lose this game than maybe Oregon did to win it. Because I mentioned the awful sequence. Just awful. Like, worst I've seen maybe on my 3 years in the beat between those 2 plays. A 3rd and 14 setup because Gronowski, I think this was in the first quarter. After that Deshaun Lee interception, Jazzy and Patterson, who saw the field for like 3 plays yesterday, had 2 carries of 5 yards, and then they pull him. And then there's a miscommunication on the next play of some sort. Weegan motions across the field. It's a play action pass or an RPO, and Moulton and Weegan run into each other. And then Gronowski gets sacked, and it's 3rd and 14. That's as the ball is moving really well. This is, I think, this is when it's 2-0. So Iowa's in a spot to potentially, either take the lead or correct them, at least, take the lead or at least get it into Oregon territory, and they mess it up. But actually a decent snap by Worrell after that. It's 45 yards, but then I'm seeing more missed tackles. And after that punt where it was actually snapped well, bully ball up and down the field, and then Jamari Johnson catches a 21-yard pass, a 19-yard run by Davison, and Pierre Hill runs another 19-yard 19-yard run to the end zone. It's a broken tackle on Hawthorne, Lutmer, Jaden Montgomery, and Carson Shire, all on that one play. So then it's 9-0 in advantage of Oregon at that point. I mean, then they return with the, I think we're a little bit at the mercy of hindsight here too, because there were a couple passes that Gronowski made yesterday that were pretty good, like the quasi wheel route, because this is after what I'm talking about where they went up 9-0. There's that crosser and then up the sideline by Jacob Gill. That was a good ball. I think a lot of division, FBS receivers, power 4 receivers actually score there, but Jacob Gill makes the catch, goes down to the 2-yard line, 3-yard line. It's a 3-yard touchdown to DJ Vonamy after that. So Gronowski, blame whatever you want, but he did make a couple good throws yesterday. I don't want to take, like I said on Twitter, is you blame Gronowski for that loss and you just don't know football. like it was not, especially with the heroics late in the game. He had another deep shot to DJ Vonamy. But, following that up, Oregon gets the ball before half, or I'm trying to remember here. Iowa gets the ball after that because Oregon proceeded to go 3 and out. And then they set up a screen that takes forever. And rather than throwing the ball and potentially getting picked off, Gronowski takes the sack. They punt it away. Oregon moves down the field, had an 11-yard run and then a 27-yard run to set up the field goal. This felt
very yes to that end of the Indiana half.
Yes, exactly. It's just stuff that shouldn't happen to an Iowa defense in those situations. And it's happened multiple times this year, where you set up and you give up points that are critical at the end of the game. And like the bend don't break mentality is awesome. It's great. But when it comes to these situations and you can't get a stop when you need a stop, it's just, it didn't work. Especially yesterday with the amount of missed tackles. That 27-yard run, Aaron Graves actually got in the backfield and almost made the tackle. Xavier Wampa had a terrible angle on that play, missed the tackle. It's just, like I said, shoot yourself in the foot. It's 2 steps forward or 1 step forward, 2 steps back when you're in a situation, like multiple situations. This is just the first half that I'm talking about here too. In Monday Morning Quarterback, it's going to be a good read. It's going to be a tough read for our VFEs tomorrow, because just situation after situation where Iowa is afforded an opportunity and they didn't take it. And you make like 1 or 2 of these plays and we're having a completely different conversation right now. Just brutal.
Yeah. I'm sorry, keep going.
No, I was going to go to the Weegan fumble, but if you had something to add there, we can.
Well, I was just looking at the Pro Football Focus, the tackling grades, the team tackling grades, and the worst 3 games for Iowa. I said earlier that Iowa had an okay tackling game against Indiana. I don't know why I said that. The metrics are saying that was actually Iowa's second worst game of the year in terms of tackling. Iowa State was 3rd worst, and then this game was the worst. So I think the eye test kind of lines up there. And situationally, too, like it just wasn't optimal or ideal.
Like, do you just point to how good Oregon's running backs are? Do you say it's an issue behind how Iowa's practicing tackling? Is it because it's I don't know. Is it because it's wet and things are slippery? like because Zach Lutmer has missed too many tackles this year, and for his ascension and he almost had, I think, 2 picks yesterday. He almost had 1 on the first drive. But that happens too much. Linebackers happens too much. Wampa, for as talented as he is, how often does he just lead with the shoulder and try to hit dudes? You know?
He goes for the big hit, that's for sure. And that's not necessarily the way you want to go into him.
Which is fun sometimes.
Right.
But you got to make tackles when they're presented to you. And Iowa didn't do that yesterday. It was bad. It was really bad.
Yeah. You have to tip your cap to Oregon's running backs, because I think those guys were really good. And that's why Gary Danielson said before the game, I think it was early in the week, I don't know if it was when he was talking to Chris Hassel or who he was talking to, but he said that honestly, a way that Oregon could win this game is if they beat Iowa at Iowa's own game. And it felt like that was the case where Oregon seemed like the more disciplined team on both sides of the ball, didn't really shoot themselves in the foot, all that much from what I remember. But Iowa was able to, come up with some of those, or Iowa was able to, or end up having those mistakes that ended up being proved costly for them to eventually win the game. But I mean, I think that trio that Oregon has, I think we all kind of resonate or think about Oregon. We think about their passing game and how explosive they are and some of the playmakers that they have. Those running backs were very, very good. And I think the rain did work in Iowa's favor or in Oregon's favor a bit, where it's like, okay, you're not able to get the certain grip or traction or, maybe take the angles that you usually can, some of the footwork that you need to go into the tackle and, to really make it a strong pursuit of the ball or of the ball carrier. And it was just kind of one of those times where things just really weren't working. It didn't help too that this is probably the worst that Iowa's defensive line has played, and we talked so much about this Iowa defensive line group coming into this year, and they've been fine. Like I don't think that Aaron Graves has probably had a better year than we anticipated. I think Maxwell Owens been pretty good. Ethan Hurkett's been good in his role and what he's done. Jonah Pace and Bryce Hawthorne have had good days, but when you're like five worst perform or like three or four like pretty regular guys in the rotation on the defensive line or some of your lowest scoring grades on PFF. And, that kind of lines up with the eye test from that game because they weren't able to get a pass rush. I don't know if they really generated a pressure yesterday against Dante Moore. I'll have to look back at that one. I know Iowa's offensive line had a pretty good press. Yeah. Iowa did not have a single pressure against Oregon in the passing. I don't know if that was by design, like, was Phil not sending as many blitzes? Like, I don't know. That was kind of unclear to me, but it didn't really feel like there was much, pressure on Moore in the pocket. And he threw the ball 20 times. Like, that's not, too much in terms of Oregon, but they also have a rushing attack where they can run the football and they didn't really need to do anything else. And allowing some of those big runs too are really gut wrenching to a defense because not only does it make you tired, but it also moves the ball down the field a little bit more, kind of deflates it even more as a team and gives that offense more momentum. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those games where you just think back and you're like, man, like this is why I feel like it's so hard for people to be Iowa football fans because just the way that this team plays and just the way that these games are, you have to be at your best to beat some of these teams. And even with Oregon, all the guys they had out in this game, you never really thought about that, but you still like when you saw that they were out, you're like, okay, we still need to play our best football to win this game. Like Oregon is still a very talented team with 4- and 5-star guys across the field, future NFL draft picks. Like there's a lot of talent still on the field, but it's not ended up being your night, I guess. And that's kind of the separator from Iowa and some of these teams like Oregon. Like I'm not saying Oregon is a legit national title contender, but they're clearly a college football playoff, probably that third Big Ten team right now. And that's kind of the difference. Like you're just able to execute and win those types of games. Like that's what's good. That's what good teams do is they win those types of games that aren't necessarily the prettiest, aren't necessarily the most well played, aren't necessarily in the best of circumstances, but they're able to do the little things more and execute on the little things. And it was all summed up in that dang pass by Dante Moore at the end of the game. That just was the ultimate summation of that game. And what makes this season, I don't want to get too much into a spiel about the season, but which makes this season that much more frustrating because there's just so little plays that could have gone Iowa's way that would have made this season a complete, potentially, I mean, yeah, the what ifs and the whatnot, but you're potentially talking about a 9-0 team right now. And I don't think that's crazy in saying that.
No.
And that just kind of sums up. I think this game right here just kind of sums up the year, sums up the season.
It does. And it even extends to your All-American Jet Award winner in Caden Weegan with that fumble, which I don't know what that was like when you were watching it, Sean, but it was a really weird sequence from the press box.
It didn't even look like that, drastic of a fumble. He got nailed. He got hit pretty hard. but you're kind of like, wait, he lost, like he fumbled that,
Yeah.
like, or he didn't recover that. Like that's where I was kind of like, whoa,
it was weird.
yeah.
It was a mass of Oregon players right there too, which. And like for him to fall on it and not be able to get to it, it was just a weird situation for Caden.
That's like one of those bottom of the pile like type stories that the guy, it looks like the guy has it, but then you're just fighting under the pile and
not a play that is an indictment, I think, of Weegan so much as Weegan's really good in space.
Yeah,
really got a guy that you got to get the ball. I don't love running up the middle with him in situations like that. A lot of guys took their gloves off. I'm assuming they were more slick because of the rain. I don't know if you can pin because and Weegan had the ball out like that when it got poked out. And that's a situation where I think Iowa had the ball for like 6 minutes too. On that drive, Iowa had 3 possessions in the third half, in the second half. And that is the epitome. Like there's these plays where you miss tackles and that shouldn't happen. There are these plays where, a 2nd and 8 becomes 3rd and 14 and that shouldn't happen. But then there's a play like that and the botch snap that just cannot happen. If you want to upset teams like this, there's mistakes that add up, and then there's monumental mistakes when you can't have them, and that was one of them. I mean, I need to watch it. I haven't gotten to the second half of my rewatch, but it's things like that just leave you going like this.
Yeah,
rubbing my face.
People who are parents and the coaching staff right now.
I mean, we couldn't end the game, the pod without talking about that. But the lack of
what was that? Wait, what was that scene like in the press conference? Like, I wasn't able to. Obviously, I had other stuff going on this weekend, so I wasn't able to really listen to the press conference and whatnot. But like, what was that? Is that what you were going to talk about? Like,
yeah, I mean, it was just frustration. That's what you'd expect. I can't really speak to it too much other than that. I mean, Kirk very much disappointed. You could tell this one's going to eat at the guys, and it should, because of and like they know they made mistakes that they shouldn't have made. And Kirk said that in the post game too. It's like, you got to do the little things right. We didn't do the little things right, and he's correct when he says that, and that's why they lost the game. So, and we didn't get Weegan after the game, but I mean, I think that might be. It's not the sole divider or the sole thing that has caused these 12 losses in a row to ranked opponents, because you can do all the little things right, but when Tennessee beats you 35-0, there was no way you're going to win that game, right? So,
and none of those games against Michigan really felt close either.
No. Penn State in 23.
Yeah, I think you were down to your true freshman running backs in that case, which obviously Kamari's really good now, but TJ Washington doesn't really get snaps
and you had an injured Cade McNamara as your starter. Bad situation. But this is one of those games where you do the little things right and you probably win. And they didn't do the little things right. I think, and that goes up to the coaching staff too. I mean, again, Lester did have some good calls, did have some ballsy calls. But one of the most important calls of the game, that 3rd and 2, I don't know if it feels like, and I don't mean this to be an indictment of Lester, like his character or anything like that, but I don't know if he feels like he has something to prove on the passing game, like, because just their run game is so good and so creative and so consistent relative to the passing game, and you're just putting yourself in more difficult situations are you trying to prove something? Because what do you have to prove when you're averaging 5-6 yards per carry on a drive, and then you go to the air, and this is after you had that horrible snap by Bryant Worrell. And I apologize for continuing to go back to that, but I mean, what do you think? Like, why would you go to the air in that situation?
With the 3rd and 2?
Yeah, I mean, just generally, like,
yeah,
kind of done that throughout the year when they didn't need to.
I mean, it also depended on maybe they didn't like the look that Oregon gave them at the line. Like, that could have been something.
Or like the way conversions are just not.
Yeah, I think we should be talking more about it. I'm surprised we kind of took this long to bring that up because it feels like the 2-point. I mean, that was a heck of a grab by Kamari Moulton too, but wasn't able to keep his feet in. But yeah, just every time they go for a 2-point conversion, it's just like, whoa,
what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, it's just like, why do you not just like run the football with Mark Gronowski? Maybe. I mean, I know that's probably what teams are going to look for, but like, it really feels like Gronowski is getting at least 2 yards for every carry. And I'm not saying it's going to be perfect, and what they draw up could be completely different to how it was executed. So I think that has something to do for it too. Like, it's not all on Tim Lester, and you never really know like where things are going to be at in that moment in time with how slick the ball is going to be, how it's going to come out of your hands. Like, is your offensive lineman going to slip? Like, just stuff that happens in football in those types of weather conditions that make it really frustrating and, make the game as difficult as it is. But yeah, I just don't like, in hindsight, it's always 2022.
Exactly.
Like, that's one thing. There's been calls that Lester has made where you're kind of like, whoa, what the heck? And then they were able to execute and convert on it. But then there's some where you're right. You're looking at that and you're just kind of like, huh? Like, you were setting up for a pretty good drive there on, that drive, and you end up just kind of, booting it away. Or it wasn't a great drive. What was it like? Well, I guess it didn't look as bad. It didn't look as good because it was because that punt or the bad snap. But like, that was an important drive of the game. Because if you want to take that, first punch, then that's crucial. But also the next drive ended up being an interception. So like, it ended up working out, but it was still just like 2-0. Then you're down 9-0, and you're kind of like, oh boy, like, we got to really find a way to get back in this one and, not let it get out of hand, because we know how Oregon can be, and, they're a hard team to come back from and whatnot. But yeah, I don't know if I want to say it's almost to prove. We know that Lester kind of is, he's talked about it before. Like, he has that instinct to him where he kind of wants to go for that kill shot.
Which is so antithetical to Kirk Ferentz.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
it's not marrying well.
I think that goes to show, though, that, that whole narrative of Kirk having total control of the offense, like, it's kind of it's a dead one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Lester does, like, kind of, he does have a little bit of kind of edge to him, and, maybe not saying he's hard-headed. Like, he could be very hard-headed, but like, I think he does want to kind of maybe prove a point out there, because he's talked about it before. Like, I think he's pretty clear, and like, he's smart. Like, he knows what to do in terms of certain points of the game. But yeah, there are some calls where you're kind of looking like, what, like, was that really necessary at that point? Then again, players have to execute on it, but it's still kind of, makes you think, like, kind of scratch your head a little bit.
In like the 2-point conversion situation, it's almost like they feel like they have to pass from 2 yards out, and not even like an ego, like, prove something thing. It's like it's 2-point conversion. We got to pass it. No RPO, no nothing. And when you've got one of the best quarterbacks who runs the ball a lot, and now is the single season leader in rushing touchdowns by a quarterback, by the way, has 12 this season, passes Wilburn Hollis from 1960. So shout out to Wilburn. I think that's the name. But anyway, and I mean, at least make the defense hesitate for half a second, right? Because a half a second can be massive in football, especially when you're down that close to the goal line. I really think the last thing we got to talk about too is that the defense did, by and large, like you only allow 18 points to Oregon. That's pretty freaking good, guys. It's still Phil Parker's defense. Still a lot of dudes on that defense. To fully put this at the feet of the defense too is unfair, and I think it's ignorant. Again, the bend don't break. That is where things go maybe a little sideways. And additionally, we talked to 24/7 Sports Oregon guy Eric. I can't remember his last name right now. Eric
Scopel.
Okay, Scopel. He said that Oregon's kicker has been awful, like bad this season. And he goes,
that's like the Kyle Conrarty thing where it's like that guy cannot hit a field goal against anyone other than Iowa, the Iowa State kicker. Like, I swear, every time I watch him kick a football, that's against a team not Iowa, it doesn't go in. But every time he goes up against Iowa, like that thing is, it's like the whole narrative where teams always hit the three before the buzzer against Iowa for basketball. Like, it just kind of feels something like that.
And Atticus Sappington not only hits, I think 2 that would have been his season long, because prior to that it was 42 yards, but he hits 3. He goes 3 for 3. And I said it on Monday Morning Quarterback too. Is like, I can understand why he's not that good of a kicker. Like, watching the ball come off his foot, it like lofts. It's really weird. He does not have the power of Drew Stevens, who hit that 58-yarder. Just a really weird kicking situation. And it's just like more salt in the wound, knowing that their kicker hadn't been good. And then that happens. And of course, like, again, credit to Oregon too. Their punter kept it away from Caden Weegan, one of the best punt return or punt coverage units in the country. I think that's all I wanted to mention there. But I mean, anything else from this game, Sean, that you think of off the top of your head that we need to talk about? I mean, Gronowski scoring with 2 minutes to go. Like, we can't, glaze over that. I thought that, and Gronowski said it himself, I thought that was going to be a legendary moment for Iowa football. I mean, did it not feel like that to you when they went ahead 16-15?
I did tweet Mark Gronowski legacy drive.
Yeah.
And then I saw that he hit like the hardest. He hit the hardest. Yeah, that pass to Vanami was. I mean, the tight ends I thought were pretty good too. That was probably one of the better tight end games for the side. I mean, Hayden Large and DJ both had some pretty big catches, but then Mark Gronowski just decided to hit the hardest 6'7" and that the world has ever seen. And that was just like, dude, we got to work on your celebration.
He did the electric or the air guitar a couple weeks ago.
That was pretty cool. You should try like the Jonathan Taylor celebration or something like that. But where he kind of does like the little like hopper or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I said this in the preview, as I mentioned that I think Oregon's going to win this game. Which, by the way, we're all even now. Even though I did want to switch my prediction for the vibes, like
I should have told you to keep it.
Yeah, but we're all 8-1 now in the year, so
yeah,
that feels decent. But like, obviously, would have rather seen the Iowa win, but for content reasons. But
right,
yeah, it's just one of those things, man, where just the gap is so small. And if Kirk was still if he still ends up I mean, I don't think he's going to reach 10 years, but I feel like this is going to be one of those teams that he looks back at and is like, man, what if? Like, just what if? The 2018 team comes to mind. I think 2008 was another one too, where it was like he's kind of set
3-3. Yeah.
Yeah. But those weren't like, okay, never mind. The 2020 team, 2010, 2020 team. Like, I know the COVID kind of screwed everything up, but man, that team had a chance of, being really good if they could have beat Purdue and Northwestern. And then, they probably would have been in potentially a college football playoff situation there too. Mm-hmm. If the teams wanted to play. I know Missouri didn't really want to play, but That was a little bit of shade there.
A little bit of shade.
It would just be so Iowa to win these next 3 games.
It would. What I told Dave, and we'll get into this in our pod later this week, but what I told Dave was if they beat Oregon, I was going to pick USC, but now I feel like I have to pick Iowa because this is like the quintessential bounce back where they finish the season hot, and watch them finish 10-3. Like,
and they're going to be like the 13th. They're going to be like the 13th seed in the college football playoff thing too. Like, there's all the like what if or all the scenarios for them to make it in had they beat Oregon would like come true, and I was just sitting there at number 13.
Yep. That'll probably do it for us here on this episode of Swarm.
We're getting a little too emotional, yeah.
We gotta chill. Anyway, that'll do it for us here. Hawkeye Insider Swarmcast. Eliot, Clough, Sean Bock here. Tons of content coming from us. Dave, of course, with his recap from the women's game where they slaughtered Evansville today. Sean and I will have coverage of the Xavier football game this weekend.
Basketball.
Yes, basketball. Xavier doesn't have football. Okay, Xavier basketball game. Anyway.
One of my neighbors used to play for Xavier football. One of my parents' neighbors played for Xavier football.
Were they like FCS or something?
I'm not sure, but I just know he played for football. He played football there.
Yeah. Watch it be like a random.
Did you ever watch We Are Marshall?
Yeah.
Don't they beat Xavier at the end of the year?
I don't know. I haven't seen that movie in forever. But
I just know Xavier's in that movie, but
okay, I believe you.
Thank you.
Anyway, we'll have tons of coverage for all 3 live sports going on right now: women's basketball, men's basketball, and football at Hawkeye Insider. Tons of recruiting content, and only more to come as well. So stay locked in with us again. For Sean Bock, I'm Eliot Clough. This was Swarmcast.